Hey guys, HT CUI 2000 and the bigger wood. Name's Spartacus really, but yeah, big he's getting. And he's getting to be a pretty good sized cat for 5 months old. His cat always wants something to eat. He's after my chocolate milk. Maybe a glass of chocolate milk. And he wants my chocolate milk right now. He's want my pot roast earlier. He's always wanting something. I gotta put him down. He gets mad when you don't get something to eat. And he's verbal, very verbal. Oh man, I'm recuperating. I just came back from the mother-in-law's, and the wife called me and said the check engine light was on our car. It's a '08 Hyundai Azera, whatever it is. Pretty nice car. Got 110,000 miles on it, just turned. I couldn't find nothing wrong with it. I checked the water, checked everything, oil, everything. Everything looks good. Belts on there good. Everything looked great. I disconnected the battery cable, left it off for a minute or so, and put it back on. And the light went out and started up, and left her my car and drove home. It ran perfect all the way home, no problems whatsoever. Uh, kind of started missing about 145, but I let off of it. No, I didn't go that fast. It will. I think it's got about 150 mile an hour top end or something like that on it. So who knows? That check engine light. That's the reason for the video. I think there's a system clock on most cars that at a certain time the check engine light just automatically pops on. So you take it to the dealer and the dealer can rip you off somehow or another. Uh, I've driven vans before that the check engine light came on at like 65,000 miles, and you take it to the dealer and the dealer said, well, I don't see nothing wrong, but they charge you money anyway. Dodge conversion van in this case. So I took some black tape and taped over the check engine light so I wouldn't worry about it no more, and drove it for another 100,000. So I do believe it. I mean, maybe not. Got an '86 Ford truck. Um, the check engine light came on it. It was taken to the dealer, and they fixed the problem. And it wasn't till probably 10 years later, I was working on dash bulbs in it, and the light behind the little sticker that says check engine light, the light behind there looked like they'd taken a small punched it and broke the light out. The light was completely shattered. Now there's no way to got to it to shatter it other than the little punch stuck up in there and broke it. So they charge money. Hudspeth Ford, Harrison, Arkansas. They charge money to fix the check engine light and by breaking the bulb behind it so it goes out. So my tape worked the same way and didn't cost me nothing. Anyway, what's your thoughts on that one, guys? I just think they have a system clock that tells it, okay, X amount of miles, check engine light should come on. I've had it serviced. I've had a new antifreeze. Brake lines all flushed and redone. This is all Hyundai's suggestion. And I was flush right then. I had a little extra cash, so I said, yeah, go ahead and do it. Antifreeze, brake lines, and whatever else they did to it. Old transmission fluid and all that stuff. And that was only last fall, I believe it was, something like that. Anyway, check engine light automatically comes on at X amount of miles. There's my theory on that. God's been good to me. I'm recuperating from putting a transmission. Let's see, what do we do? Clutch, pressure plate, throw out bearing in my son's car. He has an '01 Mazda Tribute that we gave him after we wore it out almost. Uh, we replaced the clutch at 70,000 miles. The original Mazda clutch, one of the little springs broke off in it. And I paid to have it done. I took it to a guy, Eric Flack, up in Kansas City, Missouri, a great mechanic. He's not cheap. He charges probably not as much as he would if you took it to Mazda, but does great work, good turnaround, and he's always treated me right. He's done some other things for me over the years. I'm a pretty decent mechanic myself, so For me to take something to somebody like that, I have to trust them pretty well. Let me tell you that, because I'm more than capable of working on it myself and doing it. So this time my son calls me and he bought the clutch, wants me to help him put it in. You know, the days of putting a clutch in back, uh, years ago, even if it was four-wheel drive, you pulled the drive shaft out, you dropped the transfer case out, you took the transmission out, and, a few little bolts, and put a new clutch in, put it all back together. It wasn't that big a deal. On this car, you have air box to remove. You have motor to get to the motor mounts that you got to take out. You got to jack the motor up and suspend the motor, because once you get the motor mounts out, of course the motor won't so fall on the floor. You have, of course, the transfer case area and the drive shaft going to the rear wheels, which is never used unless it's in four-wheel drive, or it senses that the front wheels are spinning, then it'll activate the rear wheels. Let's see. You've got both transaxles in the front. Both of the axles in the front both have to be pulled out. You've got two or three, I think it was two braces that had to be unbolted with these huge, god awful tight bolts that we broke loose. Of course, you got the wheel nuts. Yeah, it used to be buddies of mine would sit out there with a six-pack of beer. Don't drink much anymore, and we could replace a transmission in an old '56 Ford in about 2 hours. Put a transmission in, clutch in, bell housing, whole 9 yards in about 2 hours. Anymore, it takes, I think it took us about 6.5 hours, me and him both. I did most of the technical work and let him do a lot of the wrench turning. Well, we both did. I mean, we both worked on both sides. And it took about 6.5 hours to get it all done. And it's just, wow, so much more complicated. And I know cars are better. That's been a great car. It has about 260, 70,000 miles on it. It hardly burns any oil. Between oil changes, you don't have to even add any. It runs like a chop until this happened. It's just been a great car. We drove it to almost 100,000, gave it to him, and he's put another 170,000 on it. Uh, that's one thing I will say about Eric's job of putting a clutch in. This clutch only lasted 200,000 miles. Well, actually, the clutch was good. It was only about a third wore out actually. The pressure plate was and throwout bearing were pretty shot. So I just don't understand it. Eric, if you ever watch this video, of course you know I'm kidding. Uh, Clutch job only lasts for 200,000 miles. Man, where's the world coming to? Peace. God is good to me and mine.